Today's topic is trusting God's timing when reality says a different story. My name is Emmy.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Juan.
And I'm David.
All right, so let's get started.
Sure. So, like Emmy was saying, like today's topic is actually trusting God's timing when our reality says a different story. So, actually, I wanted to start with the first question that I actually this time I brought some questions with you guys. I actually have it on my phone. So, the first question will be, why should we trust God in difficult times?
Well, I would say that God is, he's pretty smart. So he's probably figured out what's going to happen before you do. So if it's like difficult times, a lot of times you have no idea what's going to happen. So you're sort of like sitting there lost. But God has we always say God has a plans, and it's true. So that's what I would say.
How about you,
Yeah,
one?
I'm pretty sure the same. Beside of him being pretty smart, he's also right on time. He has the perfect timing, and you have to trust it because he has great things always coming for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's all knowing. He knows everything. Like, I don't think every single thing in our life is like laid out in a plan necessarily, but like he's all knowing and he knows what's best for us. Like, he created us, he created the universe, he created everything. So I feel like that's pretty good reason to trust him. Yeah.
So I just want to go like deep into the topic. Like, can you guys tell me of a situation, like a real life situation, like a personal story, where you had like a difficult situation where maybe God's timing was not, was not the right, was not right, or can you just tell me like a personal story about God's timing?
Well, not going too specific. Last year, I had accidentally made a couple of my friends really mad with me. Um, just not going to go too much into it, but I had wanted to try to go and basically just try to fix it right away. But I also knew that that wouldn't help. And what found out was that just by waiting and giving it time, we actually became even more closer than we were before. And I'm sure it doesn't work all the time. Like, if you anger your friend, don't just completely ignore them. But sometimes space is what people need to help heal. And like, I think it's almost that God sort of stepped in there and helped push that along.
So one thing that I was thinking is that why we as human beings, why are we so difficult to understand the timing? Because we want things right away, and especially in this society that we live today, why do we want things right away? Especially when they come from God. We don't want to wait? So that's something that I mean, it has happened to me. I have trouble understanding that too, but can you explain that why in this society that we live today, why do we want things right away and we don't want to wait for God's timing?
I feel like in our generation specifically, like instant gratification is really easy. Like, not to like sound like how old people talk about us, but like we have access to so much information.
That's true.
And like, I mean, if we just wanted to Google anything, like a bajillion answers are there in like 2 seconds. So we're used to getting, what we want pretty quickly with like technology and stuff. I mean, that's one thing. But I think that I don't know. And this goes for anybody. I mean, I know myself, I'm a control freak, and I want to be in constant control, and I don't want to have to wait for someone else's timing when, like, I think my plan is good. Like, we were talking about personal experiences. Like, back in high school, I was in a relationship with a dude that I thought was the bee's knees, and, like, this was my plan. Everything was going to work out. And, like, a while later, we broke up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. This was my plan. God, why are you doing this to me? 17-year-old stuff. But I mean, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that was not it. That's not what God wanted for me. And I didn't want to accept that at the time. But, you just have to trust that God's plan is the best, because it is. We don't know what's totally best for ourselves sometimes, and he does.
One.
Yeah, I think God's plan it is the best. Another example I can give is I was trying to buy the new iPhone 13 a couple of days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, but So I ordered it, but I wanted it to get in my hands like
Quickly.
that day, and I couldn't wait. I was so mad. I was like, why can't I have it on my hands right now? So that's God's timing. I have to wait till the 22nd. It is what it is. It is God's time.
So for me personally, I remember, I don't know, but I remember when I first started in college, I wanted to study pharmacy. So my first semester, I got like the classes that I needed to go that route, and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden everything changed, and I wanted to go, like, I wanted to do something else. I wanted to do psychology, and I've been able to experience that, as the time goes on, uh, many things in my life and in my mind have changed, and I think that's God working in my life, because many things that were important to me like years ago, now they're not as important, and now I have my mind focused on other things. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just say I'm not in college, but my brother is well, he's still in college, but he was going to be a mechanical engineer. But since then, like he's been in college for like 2 years, but right away he almost realized that it's not really what he wanted to do. It's just sort of his idea, and so he switched majors. And a lot of people think that like you have to have an endpoint in mind, and then that's where you're going to go. And if you stray from that, you're wrong. But a lot of times that God is sort of like you have an idea of where you want to go. Like if you want to be an engineer, a mechanical engineer, but God's like, well, I can do more with you over here, and you'll be happier over here. And you don't quite realize that that's what's happening, but it's usually the best way is just what feels natural in the moment, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because it's a lot of times when it's just natural in the moment, that's God acting. That's how I'd say it.
And sometimes we need to change our mindset and stop thinking that because we quit on one thing, everything is gonna go wrong. That we let a lot of people down. It doesn't. That doesn't. That has nothing to do with the plan that God has for our life. Because sometimes maybe we wanted to do something else than what God had planned for us, and maybe we fail, but maybe we fail, but we learn something from that. That maybe that thing is going to be useful for us in the future for whatever plan God has with us. So I want to jump into the next question, and I want to ask you guys, why so hard to trust in God? Why so hard for us to trust in God?
I think it's that inner control freak. I want to be driving. I want to be in control. I know what's going on. I've got my plans. I'm very organized like that. I know what I want to do. And sometimes it's hard to let God take the control. Let Jesus take the wheel. Sometimes it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Especially when you think everything's going right. It's easy to, give up control when you feel like you're losing it.
Yeah.
It's easy to lean
Yeah.
on him when things are hard, but when things are good, it's hard to give up that control.
One.
I think that it is hard because every human beings they think that they doing everything right when they not. They don't see that, but other people see that, or somebody else is gonna see that. And but you need to start trusting God's plan because He's always gonna come out with something miracle for you.
Thomas.
Yeah, I would say that it's hard to trust God because a lot of times when everything's going right, you feel like what Emmy said, like you're in control. And even if you don't necessarily feel like you're in control, you feel like you have to get in control. Like you have to figure out what's going on by yourself. And if things start to go wrong, sometimes it's easy to just like let God take the wheel. But it's also easy to just say, well, this is what I have to do to fix it. And a lot of times it's better to just sort of, I guess, let God help, but find a better way than what you think.
Right. So, and I think that we have this idea of God as this powerful being, and don't get me wrong, He is powerful, but we have this idea of God as this powerful being that He can solve anything or everything like quickly. And but the more we read the Bible and the more we read about God and God's people, we understand that God is not about that. God is about timing. It's about the right time to do things. And sometimes we make the mistake that whenever things doesn't go our way, we tend to blame God and say, "Oh God, why is this happening to me now?" But God doesn't work like that. God is not. He is powerful, but he's not like he's not okay. I'm gonna solve everything right now. He doesn't work like that. So we need to be aware that our many times our idea of God is not a God that can solve things pretty quickly, and we just need to wait. We just need to wait for God's timing. And now I wanted to ask you guys, do you think trusting in God is sometimes is letting go of many things?
Well, I'll go first on this. I don't think that it has to be. I
Okay.
mean, sometimes that to trust God, you have to let go of some other things that you're using to sort of hold yourself up when if you're not trusting God. But also at the same time, it doesn't have to be letting things go as much. You don't have to let go the way you think. It can just be like um like for example, like if you're trying to figure out something like going to college and trying to figure out what school you want to go to, it doesn't mean that you're going to stop doing it on your own and just be like, well, God will take care of it. That's not what it's really asking. It's not letting go of just everything. I mean, you might want to let go of some things that are like hurting you or not helping you, but it doesn't mean just completely letting go. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
is it?
I think, in some situations you do have to let go of some things, and obviously it depends on the situation. But I think in that kind of waiting period when you're trying to like hear from God, like what am I supposed to do in this situation? Like, the fact that you're not instantly getting an answer from God, that gives you the chance to strengthen your faith in Him. Because if you just got everything, if God answered all of your prayers instantly, like how strong would our faith be if we didn't have that opportunity to like
That's a good
reshift our
point.
focus and, see what He wants for our lives and discover that for ourselves and really put in the time on our part to get to know Him more and what His plan is for us.
One.
Yeah, like she was saying, I think sometimes you have to let go of some things. Like I did, I was on a whole different environment from what I'm living, from what I'm doing right now with my life, and I had to let go of some things that I used to do, I used to like, and but it's not something bad that happened in my life. It's something, I promise you, it's something super good, and that's God working with me through me, because I was living different back then from how I'm living now, and right now it's better.
That's good to know. Now, do you guys think that prayer plays a part on God's timing? What do you think prayer is when it comes to God's timing?
Well, I'd say that sometimes it's really easy to think that you have to pray for God to act and sort of think that like God isn't listening if you don't pray. But a lot of times prayer is more of just like it, in my opinion, it sort of acts as almost like a declaration of your faith.
Right.
Not saying that like if you don't pray, then God's not going to help you, because God's always going to help you. So prayer is more of like saying, like, this is what I believe. It's like a version of worship in its own way. You're not saying that if you don't pray for a good week, then you're not going to have a good week. Well, God will help you through the week no matter what. But if it's sort of just like like a like I said, like a declaration almost.
I think it's essential in that sort of like waiting period when you're, I guess waiting to hear from God, like in a specific situation. And prayer doesn't have to be like, You're on your knees, you close your eyes, you bow your head, dear God. Like, I mean, I talk to God, when I'm walking around at school. It's like, hey, this is what's going on. Because it's just like talking to your best friend. Because, I mean, he is our best friend. It doesn't have to be a super formal thing. But I think just being in that constant communication and getting in the habit of shifting your focus to talking to God is really important. So, yeah.
Sometimes when I'm delivering doors, I'm working, I even speak with him. I talk to him with my eyes open. I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm still talking to him. That doesn't mean I have to, like she said, I have to close my eyes, keep my hands closed. Yep.
Yeah, because sometimes we think we have this idea, this religious idea of prayer, like you have to kneel and you have to, bow your head and stuff like that. And that's a very religious idea of prayer. Prayer is just like is talking to you, just talking to God. And you just need to feel comfortable talking to God, like if He was your father. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that I started doing that. Yeah, one thing I started doing that I encourage everybody to do is just like in the morning. I mean, I did this during elementary school and a little bit during middle school. Right after the pledge, I'd have like a moment of silence. It only being like 10 seconds, but I'd just do like a little daily prayer there. And they've actually started doing, for whatever reason, they had stopped during COVID, doing the Pledge of Allegiance. But they started doing it again, and I started doing that again. And that got me through some like pretty tough times. So just like a little, like maybe a 10, 15-second prayer in the like beginning of every day. It just helps you. It's like an encouragement to keep trying, even if it's not like necessarily saying like help me with my faith, but it does. It helps you with your faith and helps you with being positive in a lot of different ways.
For me personally, there's been some times where I struggle to pray. Sometimes, like any human being, you're going through like difficult situations, and for me, sometimes it's hard to pray. Sometimes I don't want to pray at all. But later on, I realized that probably the reason why I'm going through that situation is because of my lack of prayer. Because I need to get closer to God, and I need to get my faith stronger. But many times I don't realize that. Many times I just don't feel like praying, and sometimes uh, we need to be aware that prayer is not the only mean of communication with God, but is a very essential mean of communication with God. Sometimes we need to be aware of that and know that prayer works, even if you don't see it right now. Prayer works, and I think prayer is very important when it comes to God's timing. And now I want to ask you guys, can you give me an example in the Bible about like people trying to do something and maybe it was not God's, it was not maybe it was not the right time?
Um, one of my favorite Bible stories is the story of Samson. I think I'm not good with names, and I don't remember the exact verse, so I just remember the story. But it's sort of related to that, where Samson was trying to do what he wanted to, and it was not what God wanted for him, and like he knew in his heart that it wasn't right, but he still kept trying to do it like over and over again. Um, and then until at the very end, he realized his mistake, and then God's basically forgave him and gave him his strength back, because they had it was the different rules that they had for to be strong, and then he had broken all but the hair, and then he had broken the hair, and then God took his strength away, and then he begged for forgiveness, and he got his strength back. And I think that sort of it reflects back, not necessarily with the prayer and stuff, but with wanting to do something your way, and then realizing and having God tell you that there's a better way.
I mean, any stories that comes to mind?
Gosh, I'm trying to think, but that's a good. I didn't even think about Samson.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I've.
That's my favorite.
You know,
That's my second favorite Bible verse. So.
your second favorite. Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. I don't think I have one right now.
How about you, Juan?
I don't have one either, but I can give you one myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, there was a time in life um, when I was so obsessed with sports, and I like to play soccer. So when I came here to United States, I thought I had the possibilities to, make it in a team, play pro, something like that. But uh, I think God didn't have that plan for me. So right now I'm, more worried about what's gonna happen with my future. Um, Set my goals, accomplish a lot of things. Um, have a better, a better c- communication with God. Um, private privacy with Him is a lot of things that I want.
Thinking about Bible stories, I was thinking about the story of Jonah, and when I was thinking about the story, I realized something that God sent him to preach the gospel somewhere else. But sometimes, uh, when it comes to God's timing, sometimes God says, "Okay, now it's time for you to do this at your job, at your local church or whatever." And sometimes we refuse to do it. Sometimes we say, "You know what? I have a better plan." So sometimes God has a plan for us at the right time, but then we say, you know what, I don't want to do it. I don't think that's for me. And then when we're going through when we're going through like hard times and stuff like that, and then we ask God, oh like, I mean, I don't talk to God like that.
Hey, oh God.
But you know, well, we ask ourselves like, why am I going through this tribulation or whatever? And sometimes we get to realize that we didn't take advantage of God's timing when it was when it was like the right time for us to do this in our ministry, or I mean whatever you do. And sometimes whenever we going through a tribulation, we ask God a lot of questions, and sometimes we need to look back and say, you know what, I failed God. I had this opportunity to serve Him, and it was the right time. But you know what? I refused. At that time, I refused to do that, and I backed down. And now, probably, I'm paying the consequences of that. So, what can you tell the people who are watching? What can you tell them? What could be like good ideas for you to like deal with God's timing? What do you recommend?
Um, One, like I said, prayer, because even if it's just a little daily prayer, but more so than that is just talking to someone, and it doesn't have to be someone that believes the same things as you, but talking to anyone about your problems, it's
It's very helpful. Yeah.
yeah, it is, and it helps you sort of just like sort of that way. And if it is someone with the same beliefs as you and the same like end goals as you, who understands what you're going through, then that's even more helpful. But it doesn't have to be. You can just sort of like rant to someone for like 10 minutes, and then let them tell you like, well, it'll be okay, and then that'll sort of just like it'll help you. It'll help you stay in faith, I guess, and make sure you know that everything's going to be okay.
And I like what you're saying because sometimes we whenever we're going through like tribulations and stuff like that, we don't want to let other people know what we're going through, because we want to keep it private. And sometimes we don't realize that by keeping it private, we are actually it's actually worse for us. Sometimes it's actually better to like let it go, and you know what? Let me talk to my pastors. Let me talk to I don't know, a therapist, psychiatrist, whatever. Let me talk to them to see how can they help me to deal with this. And sometimes it's worse if we keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say something really quick. One thing that I like that you said is that talking to pastors, therapists, teachers, or anything. I'm 16, so there's a lot of people, like most people in the world, know or have gone through what I'm going through to some degree. And it's hard. It's easy to imagine that you're the only person that's ever gone through
Yep.
this, and that nobody else knows what it's like. But people do, and
Yep.
it's a lot of people do, and so and nobody talks about that. But if you talk to someone, there's a pretty good chance they know what's happening with you. So
Yeah, many times we think that we're the only ones.
yeah.
No, like I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you guys heard this many times. Like sometimes we say like, "Oh, you don't know what I'm going through." Like, yeah, people know.
You don't know. You don't understand.
You don't understand,
You don't
yeah,
know what I'm going
people do,
through.
yeah.
We've all been 16. Yeah.
Why you wanted to say something?
Yeah. So I think that for many people to try to understand God's timing, like he was saying, you need to pray a little more. Every little helps. If you start, uh, if, you can do it 2 times a day, three. Every little helps. So by you doing that, you keep a personal connection or an spiritual connection with Him, and that's when you can start understanding the God's timing.
Yeah, just kind of going off what you were saying, just finding like the little things in your life where you can change it so you can start like shifting your focus to paying more attention to what God wants for you. Like, you know, even if it's like maybe you don't listen to music on your way home and you just spend time in prayer. Or if you are listening to music, maybe like turn on some Christian music or something or some worship music. Just, you know, sometimes I'm like, ugh, I really want to listen to what I'm listening to right now.
And I think music has a lot of things. It has a lot to do with how we feel. This, I mean, yeah. you can go
Yeah,
ahead,
no,
sorry.
it's okay. But like, I always forget how powerful worship music is sometimes when I'll listen to it and it's talking about exactly what I'm going through. Somehow that happens. Or if you have free time and like, oh, I want to read this book, but like maybe you should be reading a devotional instead. And like the devotionals especially, they always somehow like if you do the daily devotionals, it's always talking about exactly what's on my mind. And like that's always like, whoa, God is real. Like that totally like
Yeah.
re-strengthens my faith, I feel like.
And this sort of bounces off of that with the whole song thing. There are so many songs out there about just about everything you can think of. And if you're feeling a certain way, there's a song about almost exactly what you're thinking of because there's just so many songs out there. And so like, what I'll do sometimes if I'm feeling down or even if I'm feeling really excited about something and really happy is I'll just like scroll through and look for random songs and then just find one that matches how I'm feeling. And it'll sort of give me like a sense of, not like we say validation's bad a lot of times, be like, but like a sense of validation, the fact that like I'm not the first person to feel this way, you know?
Right. Now that you guys talk about music, actually, I think that'll be a great like topic to discuss in like our future podcast.
That would be a good one.
Yeah, because music is something. I mean, music is something that I really love, but music is very interesting when we talk about music because you can listen to a song and that song can make you cry. It can make you love someone. It can even make you kill someone. There's songs that talk about killing people. So I mean, I know we're going off a little bit.
That's okay.
No murder ballads in
You
this
should,
one.
have seen you should have seen the other podcast.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely think that music helps a lot, and it can help you a lot. But it can, it can sometimes if you don't listen to the right music. And what I mean by right music, I mean it's kind of difficult to explain. So
Well,
that's
it's sort of like music is like an accelerator. It's like
Right.
pressing the gas pedal straight down to the ground. Like if you're going in the right direction, it'll take you there quicker. But if you're heading in the wrong direction and you have the wrong music, then it'll just speed up where you're going the wrong way.
well. I just want to keep talking about it. So now that you say that, so why sometimes we want to listen to music that makes us makes us want to feel like more violent? Why
Well-
sometimes we want to listen to music like that?
I think it sort of bounces back to what I was saying a second ago with like feeling validated and how you feel. Like if you're really excited about something, like a huge opportunity or something, and you find a song that matches that just makes those feelings even more. And that's what a lot of music does. I mean, like obviously if you're really excited about something, you listen to calming music, you're going to calm down. So if you're really like upset about something and you don't necessarily feel like, well, you're like, I know I shouldn't be upset about this, and then you find a song that's like, yeah, you should be upset about this, and they're like, oh, I should be upset about this, and now you're even more upset. It's just sort of, it pushes you along, and it's because like when you're upset about something, you don't want to feel like like even if in your heart you know you shouldn't be upset about something, you don't want to feel that way. You don't want to be told that. But then you find that song that's like, oh yeah, get upset, and then you're like, all right, I'm upset. It's just sort of pushes that along.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Sorry, like we just want to, we want to be told what we want to hear. So like it's easier to pick music that, tells us exactly what we're feeling. Like, yes, you should be upset about this, or yes, you should be excited about this, or yes, you should be sad. But, choosing to listen to something that is going to help you put you in that right direction. I like what you were saying about that. It'll either like really quickly take you where you should go or where you shouldn't go. So, I mean, just being conscious about what you're listening to, I think is really, really important to like.
It's very important.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and I think it's very important because sometimes maybe, and it has happened to me. I gotta be honest. When I don't have a bad day at work, I don't want to listen to worship music. Trust me, and I'm pretty sure we all feel like that. And we need to change that because we're not doing good to ourselves. Because if we want to listen to music depending on how we feel, our lives are not gonna get better. And what I'm saying is that we need to actually, in my opinion, we need to actually say, you know what, I'm a Christian. I want to listen to worship music because that's what builds my spirit, and it doesn't matter how I feel. I wanna build my spirit, and actually a long time ago I listened to this testimony. It was this like hip hop singer from Puerto Rico, and he was very famous. Now he's a pastor, but he was very famous back in the early 2000s, and he would sing like a lot of violent music about like killing people and stuff like that. And he would say like I had people come to me and say, you know what, I actually listened to your songs before I went to kill this person. I would actually listen to your music before I would go to kill someone. And he said that he had up to that point he had no idea how music can impact people. So I think that's something that we need to be very aware and be very conscious because music can make us feel great, make us feel good. Worship music is great, but actually there's some types of music that can, put us in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys have said, and I think that if you let in the sweet situation take control over you to play some music that may adapt to that situation, you're losing control of yourself. Beside, you may not going through the right direction with that music.
Right. And I think that the talking about music, I just want to leave it like that because I think it's something that we can actually talk like more in detail in other podcasts because it's actually very. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like music is, it's like I was about to say an unspoken language, but we have lyrics, so it's a language that basically everybody has around the entire world. There's music everywhere there are people, and I think it's so powerful because of that. Everybody understands that even if you don't know like the words, like I'll listen to some Spanish music with some of my friends, and I'm like I know I have a feeling of what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they're saying. I'll recognize a word or two from Spanish class, but like I know what's going on. I know it's I know it's a love song, and not just because they say the word corazon a lot.
And yeah, I think the same thing. I remember when I was in Cuba before coming here to the U.S. I would listen to music in English, and obviously I didn't understand anything, but I kind of felt like okay, this song is about love, this song is about violence or whatever.
You can get the idea.
Yeah,
You can get the
idea.
vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, the vibe.
You can just listen to the rhythm sometimes, and you can get the idea. So going back to God's timing.
Away from music for now.
Yeah.
You gotta step
Stay
back. We can
tuned.
talk about that for all day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think we just need to going back to the question. Going back to my last question, I think my recommendation for you guys who are actually watching, or if you watch it later, my recommendation for you guys is to be patient. I know it's hard to do it, especially like Emmy was saying. These times that we want things like our way. We want things quickly, and if it doesn't happen our way, then I'm not a God. Then God doesn't exist. Then I don't want to go to church anymore. And I think part of growing up is understanding that sometimes things are not going to always go our way. Sometimes everything's not going to go as planned. But maybe that's the right plan that God has for us in the future. So my only encouragement is to wait on God, keep praying, and trust me. I mean, I'm not that old, but I mean,
Older than me.
yeah. So like Thomas was saying, like you're not the only one going through that situation, and I've gone through a lot, as many of you guys here, and what I can say is just wait on God, because I was young, and I was, many times I was desperate, and now I look back and I'm like, I was so dumb.
And I was just going to add on to that. Sometimes it's hard to think about it in terms of God a lot, because he's so unfathomable in some ways. But like, if you have a really good friend, and that's what God is. So if you have a really good friend, your best friend, and they mess up, I'm not saying God messes up, but like they do something, or you said you wanted this way, and they take a little bit longer, like you're not going to immediately go and be like, well, I'm not going to talk to you ever again.
Yeah.
You're not going to go and be like, well, like, I hate you, I'm going to leave. Like, it might feel that way at first, but, if you're really good friends, you're gonna come back to them. Obviously, depending on what it was. Like, but if you had some plan with one of your friends and they cancel last minute, you're not going to be like, oh, well, we're not friends anymore. Like, that's just, like, that's irrational. You might feel like doing that, but, like, that's not what you want to do. And it's the same thing with God. Like, if you have a certain way you see it going, and God's like, well, we're going to do it this way. And then you're like, it makes you wonder, like, why? Like, why do we have to do it that way? But you got to sort of understand that, like, that's how it's got to happen,
Right.
because God knows what's up.
And I think I like that you say that, because I think that goes back to what I was saying, that sometimes we don't look at God as our friend. We look at God as this mighty figure that is all powerful, and we think that He can solve anything at any moment. And no, He is powerful, but we need to start thinking about God as our friend. Just because maybe your friend doesn't, maybe your friend tells you something that you don't like, that doesn't mean that you can stop being friends with them. And sometimes we give our friends more opportunities than we give to God.
Well, I'm going to say one more thing. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but
Go
That's the
ahead.
point.
it is a podcast.
Yeah.
But with the whole friend thing, if you have a friend that's doing something and it's unhealthy for them, you're gonna tell them you gotta fix your ways, and they probably won't like it at first. They're gonna be like might push you away at first, but they probably know in their heart that you're right. And it's the same thing with God. He's gonna come up to you and be like, you've got to change your ways, man. You gotta start doing it this way. And it's not even just like change your ways. It can be like, this isn't how it's gonna go. And at first you're like, well, like this is what I wanted, but it's you come to realize, well, God's right, and that's something that I find myself saying a lot. So, yeah.
Do you want to go ahead? One.
Beside of being patient, like you were saying, you have to be patient. You have to wait. I know that sometimes if you pray, you don't see a difference, but trust me, God always has a plan, and He's always listening to you. No, if you don't pray, He's still gonna take care of you. He's still gonna watch over you. Another thing I want to say, I read one time on some article. Would you rather be at war with yourself and at peace with the war, or at peace with yourself and at war with the war? So that was powerful to me, and I think that if you have peace in yourself, you can find a lot of things, and God, for sure, He's gonna bring you a lot of peace.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Just these are like words of encouragement we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I mean, just my biggest takeaway, I guess, is just, you know, in those moments when you're waiting, where it feels like maybe you're not the strongest in your relationship with God, or like it can be like, you know, we were using like the metaphor of like a friendship or something. You know, just because you're in that lull doesn't mean, oh, it's over. We're not friends anymore. This is over. It's that time where you're like, oh, I need to reflect on what's going on, why this relationship isn't, you know, as strong as it has been before. And that's when you put in the work and you start to shift your focus to what God wants for you. And you can, when you do that, you'll be able to see why his timing is the way that it is and how that's going to work out in your life and how that's truly the best for you.
And another thing that I want to say that Thomas mentioned is that talk to people. Don't keep stuff for yourself. And I'm not saying that just go out there and tell all your secrets.
People
I'm
you
not-
trust.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that whenever you're going through like a hard moment, or whenever you're going through like tribulations and stuff like that, and you feel very overwhelmed, talk to your pastors, talk to your friends, and also be careful with the with the advices that you get. Be very mindful and pray about it. Not every advice is good for you. Just be very mindful. Pray to God and say, and whenever you're gonna make a decision, but definitely talk to people. Don't keep it to yourself, because it's gonna make more harm to you than if you like actually go out of your like comfort zone, and you actually like talk to people, talk to your pastors. If you have a youth pastor, you just talk to them and see how they can help you about it.
And then, sort of bouncing off that, with the talking to people, that's something we talk about a lot in youth, and this pops up a lot in just like everyday life, like talking like high school and stuff. I mean, it's not like shoved in our face, but like we know that that's good. But a lot of things that one thing I realized is that a lot of things we talk about with like our youth group are more or less applicable to ongoing life. It's not just a now thing. Like we talk about how you have to like talk to someone and how it helps to get those feelings out, in a lot of terms that make it more related to the youth, with having like the whole like being a teenager crazy and having all these crazy things happening, and how you need to have someone to talk to for that. But at the same time, I'm sure being an adult can't be much less crazier, because life is crazy. So I think a lot of these ideas that we're talking about in like the youth podcast or any youth thing for young adults and kids even, is that they're like applicable way beyond just
Oh, yeah.
kids.
Yeah, like that's a good point, because sometimes we think that we are adults. We have gone through a lot, so we can use our experience, and we don't need to talk about anything to anyone. And no, it doesn't matter how old you are. I don't care if you're 60, 20, 40. You're still a human being. You're still going through a lot of emotions. Go sit down and talk to someone. Doesn't matter if you're 75, 15 years old. You still need some advice. You still need some encouragement.
There's always going to be people with more experience and more wisdom than you. So, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and talk about what's going on, kind of same topics as our last podcast. It's really, really beneficial. And like, just because, you're older, you feel like, oh, I need to keep this to myself. Like, no, that's not healthy for anybody. Everyone's going to have a different perspective. And obviously, you need to be mindful with the advice that we're given, like you were saying. But, just with the advice that we're given, we pray about it and we see what God wants for us with that advice.
Yeah, I think we should definitely talk to people. We gotta, just like with regular things in life, sometimes we gotta let it out. We gotta tell to someone. That, of course, is gonna take some weight out of you. You're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel better. Also, you can get advice, and like David was saying, you gotta be careful with some of advices, because they ain't good for you.
Okay, so I think it's been a great podcast. I think
Yeah.
For sure.
It's been great that we talk about God's timing, especially us being the the like the youth, that most of the time we're the desperate one. You know what I'm saying? When things don't go away, sometimes we're looking for a solution like very quickly. And when it comes to relationship, like like work life and stuff like that, we're not we're not the ones who who usually wait on God, for the
We're
right time.
impatient.
Yeah. So I think the biggest takeaways of this whole podcast is just wait on God. I mean, be patient. Talk to Him. To have a relationship with Him. Pray. Talk to people. Don't keep things to yourself. Talk to people and see how they can help you. Any other takeaways?
And just keep talking to God.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, patience is important in any relationship, and that applies to God too. I'm not saying like He's hesitating, but He's doing it, and you just gotta have patience till you see it. It's not until He does it.
Right. Your relationship with God is unlike any other relationship we're going to have on earth because we can't literally physically see Him. You were saying He's like kind of unfathomable. So it's different, the kind of work that we have to put into that relationship. But ultimately, it's the most rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, by the way, I think we already have the next topic.
I think we do.
I think music is gonna be a very good topic. I think instead of 4 people, we can have like the whole class.
We can have all the
We bring
bands.
the bands back
We
here
can
to
bring
talk
the
about it
band. We
too.
can, I mean, when it comes to music, I think we can have a part 1 and part 2.
Oh, anybody can talk about it. That's the crazy. And we say to have the bands, but like, we could bring in anybody in the world to talk about music, and they'd have something to say because it's played such a big part in everybody's life. Music is in the Bible. Music is everywhere. It's everywhere.
I mean, if we look at Genesis, we look at the story of Lucifer, he was like the musician.
yeah,
So music has been in the Bible since the beginning.
or even like with I think it was like I said, I can't remember. It was the story with the walking around the walls and playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
I remember the VeggieTales version of it. Yes, there was a song.
Jericho,
Yeah.
yes. My brain was thinking Jonah, but I know that's not right.
Other J word.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit. That's the whale, but the wall. There's trumpets and
Yeah.
that, and I'm sure they're not the same trumpets we have today and the same type, but it's still musical instruments. It's still music. It's talking about a parade, is what it is.
Yeah. So more on music next month sometime. We will be talking about that. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely share this with anyone who you think could use this. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks
See
for
you.
listening.
See you.
See ya.